Alright, so a lot of you guys have been asking about a little bit of my Theorio for Vanguard, and I actually wanted to discuss some of my thoughts for the interactions for GB8. So yes, this is another GB8 video, taking up our good old Tuesday discussions for you guys. So obviously once we get to 10K, we're going to discuss that after our video, so it gives you guys some incentives to subscribe. So remember, if you guys want that, please subscribe. It's a very beautiful day outside here. We just got lunch, chilling here in the parking lot like usual. So first up on my agenda, GB8 will be relevant to a few decks. Looking at a few of the matchups in this game, having, at least in my, once again, most everything is my opinion, having playtested a few matchups recently, seeing GB8, decks can get there. And that's both a good thing and a bad thing. So let's be completely honest here. If you think GB8's not going to be relevant for the meta, please exit out of this video and go back to your hyperbolic time chamber and come out in a year. So first off, Shadow Paladin One. I actually do not personally like the Shadow Paladin One, but that does not mean that, unfortunately, I think I'd have to consider playing it, and that's a bad thing. Luard's already a deck that, if you mismanage yourself, it's going to punish you really hard. Ogma is a bit costed. I know some people aren't even playing Ogma. We're just dicking around with Ogma because we can, because it's a blowout against Rogue. You know, a lot of decks that have to, you know, manage the resources, or if they're a combo-based deck like Bloom Doom, you know, like snipping away those resources can really be detrimental to them. So the Shadow Paladin One, as long as you're planning for the appropriate matchup and managing your resources before you burst into, you know, that window where it's too late, then you'll be fine. I don't see any problem with today's metagame with managing your resources in terms of, you know, GB8. You don't really have any reason not to, and especially with Luard. You know, as long as you see you're playing against Granblue, you're like, alright, so I have to, you know, handle my grade 1s. So as we're continuing on with the game, you know, I'll be returning grade 1s back to the deck, setting up for Ritual. Not really going to have much of a problem in that regard. So as long as you're preparing ahead for the Shadow Paladin One, yeah, it's costly, having to essentially call out an entire arsenal. Yeah, they fucking get 15k power. Like, you know, it'll kind of be like your final burst kind of thing, but not as detrimental as the Granblue one. But point is, I think the Shadow Paladin One will be relevant for the actual burst effect that it gives you near the end of the game, especially if you've got Owls returning to the deck. You're contemplating setting up Essential Combo. I think you'll be fine. Now, that's on the flip side of things. Granblue, on the other hand, over here, got the call everything from the drop zone, 10k, 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 10k. That card's fucking absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe they fucking did that. Granblue's already borderline tier 0. And then they released the GB8, we're fucking free. Return all your stand triggers to the deck. You know, allocate extra 10k powers. Normal decks aren't going to be able to handle Granblue's GB8. And the bad thing already is Granblue can get to GB8 in a lot of their matchups. So having a zero-costed GB8 flood the board plus fucking 20,000 to each column, that's really insane. Especially when you're looking at the Shadow Paladin One, where, like, sure, you can call out grade 1s and get extra power, but the power creep between that and the Granblue card it's already insanely hard. The Granblue one, though, for pretty much every matchup, I think will be relevant. As soon as they achieve GB8, you hunker down your fucking helmet and you prepare your goddamn asshole. So Gear Chronicle will be they're going to be the ones to get to GB8 pretty much first every game. I'm not quite sure how I feel about bind 8 from the top of your deck to get an extra main phase. It still seems, I'm indifferent about it. See, it's the same thing like the Shadow Paladin one. I know you have to play it. Being able to essentially recall everything for essentially a cost-free ability is pretty insane. I mean, your turn 1, your Phoenix can flip if you need to. If you need to go down the Fate Rider line, I'm already sorry for you. And then to top things off, you know, Gear Groovy's just gonna go hoo hoo hoo. Oh, look at that. We progressively got to where we needed to be in an entire extra turn for essentially free. So there's absolutely no reason that we probably shouldn't be playing the Gear Chronicle guy. But by ending 8 takes away 8 resources from you. And you're already going to have a decently stable hand to recall a bunch of shit to essentially go on with the duration of your combo. And I know a lot of players, if you're looking at the Japanese meta right now, and like you got Chronospin Serpents, you got History Makers, you know, shit like that to continue on with your chain attack, but you know, you're not going to get the defense to unflip. You know, like whatever counterblast you have going into that turn is going to be essentially it. And that's one of the problems with Gear Chronicle is counterblast management in that situation, because you're going to take the second turn. So something you've got to consider at that stage in the game, though, is it, do I need to GB8 here, or can I pressure another next stage and kind of achieve the same result? It's going to be hit or miss, but we'll have to wait and see. I think there's room to play it. I don't know why we wouldn't, because, no, sitting here thinking about all these GB8 situations and things like that, like, your Luard Gear Chronicle matchup will get to GB8, and essentially I feel like whoever's going to achieve GB8 is going to win a lot of the time. And look at Granblue, for example. Like, their stride turns are going to be Grenache, and then whatever the hell the new guy, that's the GR in the next set, that does the same thing. And then once they're rolling into their fucking GB8, they're like, hoo-hoo, flood the board. Like, it has no cost. It has no repercussions to you. I honestly am thinking it's the best GB8. So, outside of the Shadow, the Gear Chronicle, and the Granblue, effectively, like, that doesn't even fucking matter if they're good. You know, like, their effects can essentially pressure the opponent into the situation where you're not gonna have to worry about being in a losing situation, you know. Out-resourcing your opponent is what these things do, but the problem is, the Granblue one is so free. So, like, if you go into the Gear Chronicle one, you burst down your opponent's really large hand, because, you know, it's what Granblue does. All they need is the one stride fodder. Any combination of 1 and 2, and they stride, their entire board comes back, and you have to handle that situation. And I know I've said that a lot this video. I probably sound like the biggest fucking fuckboy ever on this Granblue hype train at the moment, but you have a deck that toolboxes itself for essentially free. You have the ability to recur whatever the hell you want off of GB2, essentially. Yeah, you can play around it, I know. You have probably the most insane defense combo in the current metagame. And I don't see what the problem is, you know. In terms of Gear Chronicle versus Granblue, like, Gear Chronicle manages to burst while controlling. And you have Granblue, it's just, you know, I always call the deck a dredge. And for those of you that don't know what dredge is, it's a magic deck that mills itself into the graveyard, and the graveyard essentially is your hand at that point. The deck is dredge. Being able to essentially just combo up and do everything, it's insane. And I don't think a lot of you guys are getting the full value out of this video, because I feel like I'm a little bit iffy on what I want to say. But Shadow Paladin One is for burst. Gear Chronicle, you need to be careful of, because it's massive resource wasting if you fuck it up on its timing. And the sad thing is, you know, the Granblue one, it's just so costless. And, you know, like, I know the Kagura one's okay. I know Royal Paladins is going to be relevant as well. You know, the fact that it can flood out an entire board from the deck for free. And the Gold Paladin one, granted, like, if there was a Gold Paladin deck that I would consider super worthwhile at the moment, yeah. But those three are going to be the big ones. You know, like, the Garmor deck, as gimmicky as it is, it's really good. You know, Angel Feather's a pretty decent call. You know, Chaos Breaker's still a kind of relevant deck, but, you know, same thing I said in another video, like, if you're not prepared in terms of your metagame for what you're going to be playing against, you're doing yourself a real big disservice. So I could be wrong in this video when I say GB8 is going to be relevant. I've seen enough games as of late going far enough that allocating the one slot of your 16 to essentially your final turn boss monster, it's definitely important. I like what Bushiroad attempted to do with these guys. You know, it was their way of putting an essential timer on the game. Like, if the game goes to this point, you use this card to effectively end that scenario. It's kind of their way of speeding up the game. I definitely like what their attempt was, but it already made the broken decks even more broken. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm curious if they're going to release other GB8s. That'll be the real test of time. So guys, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think about what we said in this video. Do you guys think Shadow Paladin, Granblue, and the Gear Chronicle are going to be the most relevant? Besides, of course, Royal Paladin. But yeah, tell me what you guys think. And do Serenos.